It's a wonderful day today, Brent.
Oh.
Yes.
Oh, it is a wonderful day. Hello, everybody. I'm glad everybody's tuning back in here to listen to another episode. We are Strange Embers.
This is one that one of our viewers recommended that we did. Uh, what, 4 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago?
Probably something like that.
Yeah, and what we were going to do is we were going to kind of just do a short form on it, and then Brent kind of got real interested in it, and he decided, hey, you know what? There's actually a lot of information on this person. I have absolutely no information on this person, so any reaction you get from me is going to be a valid, upfront, truthful reaction. But Brent, if you're ready, let's jump into it, man.
Absolutely. Same thing Scott just said. It was when I looked into this, we was originally going to do a short on this, and I started researching, doing some reading about him and what all went on with this case. And his name is William Lee Neal. He also went by Wild Bill Cody. So throughout this, when you hear me talk about him, sometimes I'm going to refer to him as Bill. Sometimes I might refer to him as Cody. It seems like everything that I read, it depended on who he was with at that point in time of his life, is what he went by. As a child growing up, he went by Bill. They called him Bill. And as he got older, I never saw really where Cody came from, but his people that knew him called him Cody. The Wild Bill Cody part will come in later, and you'll be able to see, as we get into it, you'll see where that came in later in his life before the leading up to the crimes that's going to happen.
So he has 2 or 3 different aliases, pretty much.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, legal name William Lee Neal, but
Yeah,
it goes by Bill by some people. It goes by Cody by some people, and
okay,
at
all
the
right.
bars and all, they refer to him as Wild Bill Cody.
Gotcha. Okay,
He
cool.
was born October the 7th, 1955. His father was a chief warrant officer in the Air Force. So when he grew up into a somewhat strict, disciplined home. He had not a bad home life as a toddler, but he did have a strict home life. They said his mother was very soft spoken, didn't really raise her voice, nothing as a such. But when his dad took things too far, that she could, it's simply just like just say something to him, very soft spoken, and he knew he went too far, and he would draw a line right there, and that's where he would kind of
Okay.
back off.
So he had some bit of self control.
Yes, he
His
did.
dad did,
He did.
but at the same time, he had a short fuse.
He did.
Hmm.
He, Cody, or Bill, he had 3 sisters and a brother. As he was growing up, strict household. He grew up in a military household. He moved around. He was taught yes, ma'am, no, ma'am, yes, sir, no, sir. He was taught to treat people with respect, not to lie, steal, cheat. He was taught the basics of being a decent person.
And
And
where was he born at again?
I do not know. I didn't see where he was
Okay.
born. So whenever Bill was around 10 years old, him and a friend, they got caught stealing some toy cars like Hot Wheels. They were at a five and dime. Whenever they got caught stealing the cars, the woman that called them, she pulled them back into the back room. Bill, not like a aggressive, but he was upset. He knew his dad was fixing to get called. He's been raised not to lie, steal, nothing like that. So he knew he was in trouble. And to
Mm-hmm.
hear whenever he was in the back with the woman that called him, he begged and begged, cried and begged, do not call my dad. You know, I promise we will never steal again. You're never going to see us again. And after a little while, the woman took pity on him because he kept telling her, you know, if you call my dad when he gets over here, he's going to beat the tar out of me. So she took pity on him and she didn't call the police. She didn't call their parents. She let him go. And this was the beginning of where Bill started getting his con man attitude. He started learning then that he could lie his way in, and he was a smooth talker. And this is where he started developing that. They said he was as smooth as a used car salesman, that he could talk anybody into anything.
So
So,
he was a pathological liar, if
he
he had to be.
oh, he was. You'll see as we keep going into it, he very much was. And
Okay.
they
So not to cut you
Mhm.
off, but one more thing, I did look up where he was born. This is like the third tab I found. He was born in Fort Belvoir, Belvoir, in Virginia.
Okay.
So I guess that would be where the southern mannerisms came from. Yes, sir. No, sir. Yes, ma'am. No, ma'am.
Right,
That
right.
makes perfect sense.
This was the beginning of his learning how to talk his way out of something, talk his way into whatever. So after that, he also, as a young child growing up, there was two things that he wanted to, that his ambitions that he wanted to grow up to be, is he wanted to be an FBI agent or a minister. So,
Hmm.
yeah, no. So the FBI agent, he said that with that, and now when I'm saying he said, he's did extensive interviews, and some of the, as I go through this case, the there's a lot of the things that said that it's not speculation of, oh, he might have did this. This comes from his mouth in interviews of him telling how it was, how he was growing up, you know, the things that happened, the things that led into what happened.
So unlike a lot of our cases that we've already done and stories that we've already covered, where the mother would say, "Oh, he was this way," or a family member would say, "Oh, they were this way." He's actually saying, "No, this is what I wanted to be. This is how I perceive myself, and this is how it happened."
That's exactly correct.
Okay.
And so going forward, this particular one, he killed 3 women and he raped one. So there was a survivor in this as well. So when we get to the parts of when her story comes in, it's just like how he tells everything how it was, you're going to get her account of what happened as well.
Hmm.
So the FBI agent, he said he wanted to be that because he wanted to, when he was growing up, watching TV, reading comic books, stuff like that, he wanted to be able to help catch bad guys.
So
And
he was a bad guy trying to catch bad guys.
sounds like
Okay. I mean, that's kind of like a comic book villain right there.
it. The minister part of it, it kind of fell in with the FBI agent part as well. He had an uncle that was a minister, and he said that he liked the way his uncle helped people, and that he wanted to help people. As it goes, as he starts getting older, the minister part, we're going to get into a part right here in a minute, that the minister part will kind of really throw you off of why he wanted to be a minister also for so long, because he steps back to thinking about that again a little bit later. And we'll get to that in a minute, but that one will throw you off as well, or it did me.
So
So,
the way I'm perceiving it, obviously we're only 10 minutes, 5-10 minutes into this podcast, but the way I'm perceiving it with the minister part, he's not really wanting to do it for the religious reason, but more so for the heartfelt reason.
Yeah, yeah,
Sort of.
yeah, sort of, yes.
Okay.
And it's this real weird. So, just up front, this might wind up being a two-parter. There's a lot of information to go through on this, and probably most of the first part that we're going to go through right now is going to be going through up to basically probably up to the times of the murders, but it's going to go through his wives and kind of go from there because we're going to build who he was, because you had two Bills. You had this one Bill that, just like we said, he is kind of this compassionate, want to help people, but he was, even as his first wife described him, he's like a Jekyll and Hyde. He has this I want to help, but then all of a sudden it's like he can flip the switch, and it's just like he's a totally different guy. And within a second, just flip a switch, he's back to just being, they said, the nicest, sweetest guy that you've ever met.
Is there a possibility that he might have had like dissociative identification disorder or split personality disorder or anything like that?
No, they never.
Or was he never tested for anything like that?
I don't know if he's ever even tested for anything like that, to be honest with you. But
that's kind of what it sounds like to me.
It does and it don't. If you look into some of the characteristics of some of those, like antisocial personality disorder or something, I can't remember it off the top of my head right this second, but some of those, he would probably check some of the boxes, but I'm not going to say that from the things I've read that he's checking enough of them to be, which I mean,
definitive.
I'm not a person to be able to call that anyways, but you know what I'm saying. So at around the age of about 12 to 13 years old, his father started drinking pretty heavy then. And they said that he was a lot quicker to take a belt to him. And he would also even take Bill with him out to bars to go drink sometimes. And his father he didn't mind doing things to embarrass him, whatever it meant. I haven't found any information on exactly those things of what they were, but he did say that his father would do things to embarrass him in front of the other drunks that were at the bars, and he drug him around with him. And he said after his father sleep it off, sober up, then he was a different person per se, that he didn't really think too much about it because he didn't do that then. So
he had alcohol-induced personality issues. The dad did.
Right.
Also had very bad management of his alcohol because he took it out in anger, which, as you and me both know, alcohol has different effects on different people, especially when you take it to that next level.
It really does. At this point, I didn't have an exact age of when this happened, but I'm going to just deduce from when he was telling this story through an interview, after he got through talking about how his dad would drag him around to these bars when he was 12, 13 years old. It was right after this when there was an older married woman took a liking to him and started seducing him. So her husband,
13,
somewhere right around that age. It's gonna be somewhere between the ages of 13 to 17. I don't know exactly where it falls at in there, but I know that he went into the army right after he turned 17, and this was long after that happened. So I mean, we're right in that age range, 13 to 17 years old. So she takes
adolescence.
Yes, right, correct.
Okay.
So she took a liking to him. She started seducing him, and he didn't tell anybody. He just let it happen. Her husband was cheating on her, and she took a liking to Bill. She started seducing him and sleeping with him as, quote unquote, revenge on the husband. So whenever this happened, he didn't tell anybody that this was happening. He said that he was scared to actually tell his dad or anything because he thought he was going to get in trouble for it as well.
Right.
So he went with it, and he said, as it was happening, he said he enjoyed it. He enjoyed having sex with the older woman. But he said after each time when it was over, he said he felt disgusting. He felt dirty. He felt disgusting. He couldn't wash the filth off of him. That he was disgusted with himself and everything that happened.
So I guess this is where his personalities started really splitting here. In my opinion, this is where that he came across some form of trauma, right? So he puts this person in this form of trauma where he's enjoying it, and then his other personalities like, why would you do that? That's disgusting. So that goes to another form of his identity, maybe.
Right? You're
I
on
mean,
to
that's
it.
just how my brain's thinking.
Yeah, I mean, mine's thinking kind of the same way. But we're going to find out a little bit more about this about the trauma because that's not all of it. So
Okay.
while this is going on, also, even though he was afraid to tell his family, she was also reinforcing this by telling him that if he ever did go and tell his family, that his family was going to disown him for this happening and for him letting this happen. So he was kind of
Blackmailing him.
right. So he's kind of at this catch 22 with it, right? After about 6 months of this going on, that's when, and I don't have her name of who this was. He didn't say what her name was, but after about 6 months, she called off the affair that she was having with Cody. They went their separate ways. Then Cody wound up joining the Army sometime shortly after he turned 17. So, we went over that earlier. That was, right around the time frame of when this happened with her. After he got out of the Army, and I don't know how long, I haven't went into the research of how long he was in the Army, but after he got out of the Army, he saw this woman again. Same woman that was molesting him as a child. And he quoted that he told her when he saw her that you had me as a boy. Now you can have me as a man. And then they started seeing each other.
Wow.
They started seeing each other. They went out. She was divorced at this point in time. It wasn't, she wasn't cheating on her husband at this point in time. They were divorced. After just a short period of time, like I said, Bill was a smooth talker and he was a ladies' man. He could talk women into anything. It was ridiculous. She wound up being head over heels in love with him. And when she then wanted to move in with him. That happened for a short period. And she started talking about getting married. Well, when she started talking about getting married, that's where he called the line this time. And that's when Cody walked away from her and he left her. After this happened, he's now out of the Army. He's trying to figure out what he's going to do at this point. What is he going to do with his life? What's going on? But he knew that he couldn't be an FBI agent anymore, and he couldn't be a minister now because of the things that he had done and he had been through. And that includes, one of the things is soon after that affair happened with the older woman when she was molesting him, I don't know who the girl was, but there was a younger girl than him that he went and molested her. So,
Really?
yeah. So that was one. Another one was he said that he was also an unwilling victim several times as well, not just then. There was a church elder when he was a teen that molested him. There was also a sergeant in the Army when he was in that was also raping him. Yep. So he has.
I wish we could have found a picture of this of Cody when he was in his teenage years, but me and Brent have both scoured the internet and were unable to find one to see why. Was he that good looking of a guy back in when he was younger?
I mean,
Or was he just an easy target?
or was it this whole entire persona also where he built himself up to be all these things that he wasn't as well. That, I mean, I don't know.
Yeah, that's a good point.
But I mean, either way, it's even at that. I mean, the minister of his church, the older woman. I mean, come on.
Which, by the way, I don't know if you saw this or not. You can pen pal this guy in prison.
Can you really? He had when we get to the part where he's in court, he had one woman was what they call her a trust fund baby, and she was sending him money constantly. Also,
Mm.
even in jail, he still had the whatever this is that he has. He still had it in jail where he could just swoon the women.
Mm. You know what this says right here about Cody? Was posted February 10th, 2024. Cody's best relationship advice is to make sure you're the crazy one.
Wow.
Yeah, and it says in his biography or his bio here, he was a homeless cowboy. He's lonely and can use a friend and pen pal.
And that very much fits. Both of those statements fit him. As we go through this, you're going to see that those statements from him, they fit.
That's crazy.
His issues with female, he has serious female issues. So some of his female issues, they started with his sisters, for one. He had issues with, like, he even stated one time that he had issues with females crossing him. That if you cross him, you're going to see the bad Cody.
Yeah.
And that started back from when he was a kid also. He had 3 sisters. They would make games of it and enjoy getting him in trouble. So he said the things that they would say, 90% of the time, it wasn't true. 10% of the time, yeah, it'd be something he did. But even though after it was something he did, they would play that out more and more to get him in trouble. So they would go to his dad, and they would tell him that Bill squeezed their arms or squeeze their neck, and the girls themselves would go and squeeze their own arms. They would squeeze their necks and leave bruises on them, and they would say that Bill did it. So whenever they went to him and said Bill did it, and they got bruises or red marks on their necks saying that Bill, is choking them or anything like that, then that's when Bill said that he would get the tar beat out of him. His dad would come snatch him up, take the belt to him, and wear his butt out. And
so were his sisters younger than him or older than him?
Sisters were, I think he was the baby. I think all of his siblings were older.
So was it like an attention thing from his sisters?
That I don't know. I mean, at some point it was, because whenever they would do that and he was getting in trouble, they would sneak a peek or whatever if it's in another room to watch him get his butt. Watch his dad wear his butt out for whatever it is that they've lied about, and they would laugh and make fun of him about it also.
Oh, see, that's twisted. Sounds like that whole family's got issues.
So the mother loved his mother to death. That was the woman in his life, and she loved Bill to death. He could do no wrong.
So she was his protector.
Yes. And he was married 4 times. We know stuff about 3 of them. His 3rd wife, we don't really know much of anything about her, but the other ones we do, and that's what the first part of this, all of this part of this is going to be a lot about his wives and the relationship with them. All of them loved his mother as well. Every one of them. That she was that kind of woman where she would be around. She took care of everybody she's around. She was a mother, and
yeah,
that rubs off. He had made the comment that with everything that had happened and the way he was with women, that before he was out of his 20s, that he lost count of his sexual conquest at being over 1,000.
Really?
That's ridiculous.
That's at what age?
Before he was out of his 20s.
That's
Now, as we go through this case, he tells some of the. If half the stuff that he tells was true, wild and crazy life. I mean, he had a crazy life anyways, but if he did half of what he said anyway, so, I mean, you're going to take this with a grain of salt. Also,
yeah.
this is out of his mouth, him saying what he was doing, and part of
So
his whole
maybe
entire
he's
thing.
trying to persuade us that he's better than he was.
Correct.
Who really knows?
Correct. He built himself up. Every single thing he ever says about it, he builds himself up, thousandfold anyways.
Got you.
Um, so that's what he had. He became an amazing con man, and he knew how to use his lies and his stories to deceit everyone around him for everything he does. And he makes himself into whoever, whatever he could form himself into whatever it needed to be. And as we move down, as we talk about, get into his first marriage, his interviews with her name was Karen, and with interviews from her, she even said the same thing, that he could be anything, that he could be in blue jeans in a cabin out in the woods and fit in with everybody, and the next day he could be clean cut in a 3-piece suit, and you wouldn't think any different about it. That it didn't matter where
Really?
he went, he could fit in, he could mold anything.
Now, when we get to these people, Brent's going to let me know we're going to try something a little different on this one. Instead of superimposing the images when we're going through editing out little conversations that we have that don't pertain to the podcast, I would add pictures like we did in the last 50 States Haunt and the Candyman. So Brent's gonna let me know when he wants me to, and we'll transition into those images of who we're talking about, what they look like, et cetera, et cetera. Just kind of letting you guys know that.
And I don't have any pictures of his first wife, Karen. I don't have anything for her. I never could find anything yet. Um,
No, all we got's the other
I do
the
have
others.
pictures, yes, of everybody he did murder. I have pictures of them. And so part of his make himself out to be whoever and fit in, a lot of every bit of this had to do with women most of the time, to be some kind of deceitful way to get what he wanted from women.
Okay.
And every woman that, when you hear through this story, every one of them are just head over heels for him. I mean, he can literally he has every woman that he goes in contact with is just melts in his hands. So the murders happened in 1998. Before those happened, before he snapped, he was married 4 times. He even said, this is like some of the things, well, I'm going to go ahead and tell you this part, but we're going to get into this first marriage. But he told people that he left his first wife, Karen, because he caught her in bed with another man. Her own
Okay.
family says no, it's not true. That's lies. Karen was, you're going to find out as we go through, she stayed in touch with, even after their divorce and everything, she was in touch with his family, through all that period of time. There are a lot of things that is said throughout here that he makes different comments about, this is what happened, this is what happened, and his family comes back and it's like, his sisters will say, no, those things are blatant lies. That didn't happen. But this whole entire thing, even though we have interviews and we're going to be talking about these different interviews from people, is what did the sisters do to him growing up? That's all they did was lie about him constantly. He lies about everything constantly. So I don't know. It's one of those, we're going to lay it out there. You decipher it how you want to.
Yeah.
We're going to go into his marriage now. So what I'm going to talk about right now from Karen is all of this being said come from her and interviews that were done with her. So this is not speculation. This is from Karen. She was born in 1959. She came from an upper middle class home. She studied horticulture and something else. I don't remember what the other one was. She went to college for 2 years for those. And she even said, I'm not stupid and I'm not from a dysfunctional family or a dysfunctional background. The reason she's making those statements is because when you hear everything that went on, sometimes you're going to say, why is he always just going for women that have no clue of what's going on or what's happening? And most of the women that he interacted with there's a lot of them that are business women that are educated, come from good families, good backgrounds. He was just that good of a con man. So whenever he met her, she was a rock climber. She was a cave explorer. She taught kayaking, and she even tried out for the Olympic canoe team 2 times, just falling short of making the team, coming in second place. In 1981, she was the assistant manager at a Hudson Bay Outfitter store in Washington, D.C. She was 23 years old at the time. So one day she's at work. So Cody walks in, do her business, and he sees her and he approaches her. He was looking for equipment. He was going to hike the Appalachian Trail, is what he told her. So they go into a conversation about what he's looking for, what he's looking to do. And she even commented that she was immediately just smitten with him. That he was a very good talker. He was very personable. They had a lot in common right out of the gate. She had already hiked the Appalachian Trail. She was an outdoors person. And she said he was incredibly good looking as well. She said he kept himself in really good shape, and she said he had washboard abs. He was ripped, toned, very good shape. We'll get to it later in this, but he said his neighbors thought he was crazy because he would put a 20 or 30 pound pack on, and he would take a canoe, hold a canoe over his head, and jog around his neighborhood like that. That was part of his exercise routine. And he said that Karen said that his neighbors thought he was insane. So when he was at the store talking to Karen, he was looking for a particular piece of equipment, and they didn't have it. So she referred him to another sporting good store that was in town, and he was going to go there to see about getting the piece of equipment they didn't have. So after he had left, she realized her lunch was just about to start. So she clocked out for lunch. She ran out in the parking lot hoping to catch him, and she was going to offer to give him a ride over to that store. He was not in the parking lot. She didn't see him around, so she was already on lunch. She got in her car and drove over to the other store. When she got there, she looked for him. She couldn't find Bill anywhere, so she goes back to her car, and she just sits there for a few minutes, and while she was, a bus pulled up, stopped. Bill got off the bus. He had his backpack on. He got off the bus to go to the store. So she just happened to be there at the right time to catch him getting off. So she got out of the car. She approached him this time. And she told him that, hey, I didn't realize I was fixing to be on lunch. I went out in the parking lot. I was going to offer you a ride, but you were already gone. So I came over here because she wanted to talk to him again. And she told him, I know you're going on this trip to go hike the Appalachian Trail, but whenever you get done with it, you should stop back by the store and see me. And we can talk about that. He was taken with her as well, and he said okay. They talked a little bit, and he went on about his way. The very next day, when he's supposed to be leaving for that trip, when she got to work, Bill was there at her job already. Now, and I'll have to back up for a second. So when the very first time he came by, she said he had long blonde hair and blue eyes, and he was absolutely stunning. So when he came back the very next day, she said that he had a he had a fresh haircut. I think he got his hair cut off. He had a 3-piece suit on, and he was waiting on her to get to work. When she got to work, he told her that he couldn't go on the trip yet, that he really wanted to take her out to lunch. She told Bill that she only had a 30-minute lunch. That's when he told her that he had already got there before she got to work. He went and spoke with her manager, and he had already arranged for her to be able to take an hour lunch that day so that they could go have a proper lunch together.
Wow.
Like I said, he was a smooth talker. You're going to see it over and over. He could talk people into anything. So they did go out to a lunch. He took her to a picnic on a large estate. The people that own the house, he seemed to know the people. They go there. They go out into this old big, I can't remember, I think it was an oak tree or something, but there was a picnic already laid out. Picnic basket, the blankets out, the whole thing. It's done up, right? So they go to have their picnic. They sit down and eat. And by the time they're done eating, when he gets to the bottom of the picnic basket, there's a little box right there. Opens it up. There's a silver necklace in there for her. He just met her the day before. That night, he went and had a custom charm made for this necklace it was the logo of that store. Hold on.
Your camera's froze.
Bear with me a second.
Oh, my camera just turned off.
There we go. All right. You got me again? My battery went dead.
Yeah, I'm working on mine. You keep on until I get it on.
Okay. Where was that? Okay. So whenever they got to the bottom of the picnic basket, he had a silver necklace with a custom made charm that he had made the night before of a wolf howling at a moon. It was the logo for the store that she worked at that was on her shirt when he met her the day before. He had that made into a custom charm to go on the necklace to give her. And she said from right then, whenever all that happened, that he had her. She said there was no kiss involved. There was no nothing like that, but he had her hook, line, and sinker right then and there. While this was going on, while she was having this lunch with him, she was already in a relationship. And the guy that she was in a relationship was abusive to her. Bill talked her into leaving him, moving back in with her parents, and that's what she did. And they began dating then. So he would go to her parents' house. He would come pick her up. He would come pick her parents up. He would take them out to eat at fancy restaurants. There was nothing that he didn't do. He would take them out to eat at all kind of places. Karen liked to drink, and she did like to smoke marijuana as well. Those are things that he didn't like to do. So he discouraged it from her. So her parents loved him even more because he didn't do any of these things that they didn't like either. Her parents, they loved him as well. He would take all of them out to different places, and he would even take them to these fancy restaurants that whenever you'd get there would be a long list, waiting line and all. And they were just, every one of them were just dumbfounded because every time they go to a restaurant, he knew everybody, everywhere they went, he could make stuff happen. She said they never waited in lines when even her parents they couldn't figure it out because nobody knew what he did for 11, but they would go up to a nice fancy restaurant. They knew Bill by name. There wasn't no line for them. They would get escorted to a table. It was like that all the time. At this part of the interview with her, this was when she said she was talking about how good a shape that Bill
He
was
was
in.
in.
Yeah,
Sure.
he was 5'8", and this is when she talked about some of his exercising. In this part of the interview with her, that she talked about that exercising where he would throw a canoe over his head and jog the neighborhood. And so whenever they started dating, they dated on and off for 3 years. In the 3 years' time, he would disappear, sometime for months at a time, and then he would reappear. She even said that every time that he did, that it would break her heart. Every single time he disappeared, it broke her heart, but she took him back every single time because she was just head over heels for him. But there was nothing ever said. He would just disappear. She had no idea where he went. She had no idea what was going on. He would just be gone for months, and then all of a sudden, he's back.
So he's almost like a lone wolf that wants something but doesn't want something.
Kind of, yeah. Kind of, yeah.
Okay.
Bill was smart. That he had everything. That he was smart. He would quote different kind of scholars and just random stuff. Like he would know these different quotes from all kind of different people through history. That just great whoever. And she said that he was heroic. That he was a member of the Green Berets when he was in the Army. That he was also a member of the Alaskan Mountain Rescue Team. She had seen pictures of him out in the snow with snowshoes on, crossing crevices with all kind of gear. She said that he was very ambitious, that he owned Neal's Tech, and that they sold alarm systems, of which some of those alarm systems that he sold were in the White House. That he was very sensitive, that he loved his mother very much. And she said one of the things that she was impressed with how sensitive he was is because when he told her about his dad had a heart attack when they were in the car and his dad died in his arms, and he was brought to tears telling her about the story of this. And she said that he was incredibly sexy, that he romanced her in every way, that it wasn't nothing to come home and there'd be rose petals all over the bed. There would be a bubble bath waiting for her when she got off work. Expensive dinners all the time, like we talked about before. Giving her massages. That he was over the top all the
Typical
time.
psychopath behaviors here.
I guess so. This is also the part of the interview where I'd spoke about before, where she said he could fit in anywhere that he went. Didn't matter if it was woods, fancy restaurant, expensive suits, blue jeans. He fit. It didn't matter what it was. He could fit into that mold. But she also had no idea where all of his money came from because she didn't know what he did.
Yeah, I was actually about to ask the same thing. Like, he's doing all this elaborate stuff.
So,
How does he afford it?
all right. So as we go through this, even when we find out where some of it comes from, you're still gonna be saying, "Where does the money come from?" Because I still don't know. I mean, there's not an account yet. I mean, you know where it comes from as we get through this, but where did it all come from? Because it
Well,
was.
I mean, I can understand how if he sold security cameras to the White House, like you said he did. Yeah, obviously he's probably got a contract with the federal agency, but I don't think that would cover near the amount of extravagant lifestyle he lives.
Oh, you haven't even heard the best of the extravagant lifestyle. I mean, it just keeps going. This is the
Good
tip.
gracious.
She had no idea where he got all this money from. She thought it had something to do with every time he disappeared. She didn't know where he went. She didn't know what he did. But he had all this money coming from somewhere. So that's what she was just down to. Whenever it was that he disappeared, he was doing whatever he was doing. That's where he was making his money at. She said it never mattered anywhere they went. He knew people everywhere that they would go. He knew people there. When he started dating Karen, now you remember he talked her into leaving the man that she was with then that was abusive. She moved back home with her parents.
Yep. Now, Karen, that's his first.
Yes, well, first and second.
Okay.
His second wife is also named Karen, but we're talking about Karen number one. So whenever him and Karen started dating, also this is how smooth he was about. I don't know. I don't know how any woman would have went for this. I have no idea. But when they started dating, he told her that he lived with another woman. 100% platonic relationship. Nothing going on. Nothing at
That
all going
doesn't
on.
matter.
All right. So there's nothing going on with him and this woman that he lives with. But he brings Karen over to the apartment where they live. When they get to the apartment, there was a woman leaving the apartment. He made Karen duck down and hide in the car so that she's not seen. I mean, the red flag. I mean, how big of a red flag do
That's
you got to be
definitely
waving
a
right
red
now?
flag.
She goes into the apartment with him. There is one king size bed in the apartment. One bed, king size. That's it. She asked him about it. He still said purely platonic relationship. Nothing going on. And she said that she loved him so much already that she wanted to believe him, and she did. That's what she did. She just believed it just as it was. She took him for his word of it that it was a platonic relationship and left it alone.
Yeah, we have a platonic relationship where we sleep in the same bed, but we don't touch each other.
Yeah.
Come on. I feel like there's a clear definition of idiocracy, and that's there. I mean, how stupid do you have to be to believe that?
I don't know. It's I don't know how you got anybody to believe this. But some of these stories are just I have no idea. At this point in their relationship, he started asking her about her sexual fantasies. He started asking her, would have you wanted to have sex with another woman? Have you wanted to have two men at the same time? He started asking her stuff like this. And she told him, she was like, I thought about it before, but nothing any more than that. It was just a thought that passed by my mind and I let it go. It's not nothing I'm interested in. He took that. He lets a little time go by and they decided to take a trip. So he books this mountain lodge for them to go stay in. They get to the lodge. He don't do drugs himself, but he knew that Karen liked to smoke marijuana. So he got some marijuana for Karen to have. Not only did he get marijuana, he's even got a line of coke laid out for her when they get to the cabin. He gets her to put on some negligee, and after she gets dressed into something a little more comfortable, the phone rings. He answers the phone, and when he did, she asked, "Who is that calling?" And we're going to back up one more time off of that. So whenever he started questioning her that time about her sexual fantasies, she even said that whenever she told him, "No, I'm not interested in that he kept kind of pushing about it. So she said jokingly to him, Well, you're blonde hair and blue eyes, so if it had to be another man, he needs to be dark headed and green eyes. They're at the cabin, the phone rings. She asked who it was, and he said that's his friend Jesse on the phone. He's dark headed and green eyes, and that he wanted to fulfill her fantasy of having two men.
Oh, jeez.
She is livid. She starts screaming at him. She's mad. She's screaming at him. She's getting dressed. She's throwing her jeans on. She's getting dressed and getting ready to leave. And as she's doing that, the phone rings again. Bill answers the phone and just real loudly, he just, no, and hangs up. And so that's when she wanted to know what that part of the phone call was about. And he told her then that this was a test and she passed. That he was testing her to see what she would say to this. And she passed. She did good.
Wrong. He got caught trying to do something that she was making a joke out of, and he didn't want to be wrong.
So does it end there though?
I mean, let's be honest. There's no such thing as there's not a test. There is no test.
Not with him.
That's there is it's a clear, oh crap, I'm in the wrong. Let me try to depict that I'm in the right here, where my narcissistic behaviors start kicking in, where I know what I'm doing is right even though it's not right.
So this whole test thing, you're going to hear this multiple times through multiple wives.
Of course.
Of
course.
So this one, she passed, but he did tell her that if you would have failed the test and you would have said, bring him on in here, he said, I would have left you. He said, we would have had a real good time first, but then I would have left you.
Yeah, of course you would have.
So now we're going to 1984. Bill convinced Karen at this point in time to move to Houston, where his mother lives. So they move out to Houston. And as soon as they get to Houston, they got to rent an apartment. So when he convinced her to move to Houston, he had already convinced her that he had a really good job lined up out there already, that, everything's good to go. So she's excited about the whole thing. They move. As soon as they get to Houston, he has zero job lined up. There's no job lined up for him, and he's, tells her, you got to get a job. So she gets a job. He also, they have to go rent an apartment. So as soon as they get there, when they go to rent the apartment, he tells Karen that she has to go rent the apartment in her name because he didn't want the woman at the office to know that they were having any relations together.
Red flag number,
I don't know, like 50 at this point.
18 billion.
10 days after they get to Houston, him and Karen go down to the courthouse to the Justice of the Peace, and that's where they get married. Karen becomes wife number 1.
Okay.
So
build up.
At this point, he's now got her out in Houston with her. She's around none of her family anymore, none of her friends anymore. And he's over there with his mother. She's having to work to pay for the apartment. He don't have any kind of job. In essence, she's scared to do anything. I don't recall her ever actually even using those words through any of the interview transcripts that I've read. I don't recall her ever saying like she was scared to leave or anything, but she did say she felt trapped. She used words like that, but she said that, and this is an ongoing thing through this story too, is every one of them are like, Bill wouldn't harm anybody, that he was one of the nicest, sweetest men that they've met. So at the time they're out in Houston, she's 26 years old now. This is 10 days after they moved to Houston. They went and got married. So on the wedding night, here comes test number 2. He wanted to play a game with her that they tell each other their deepest, darkest secrets.
Oh God.
So he went first, and he admitted to her that he had had sexual relations with men, which we already know about that. We know about the army sergeant. We know the minister, the army sergeant. So if
Yeah, but
he's
those were quote unquote not his
relations,
decision.
right? But
Yeah.
and it didn't say on these transcripts. It didn't say that if he was referring to what if he had some consensual relationships with men or not. It didn't say that, but I'm just assuming that those are the ones that we know about. After he took his turn, then it was Karen's turn, and he asked Karen, "Have you ever slept with a married man before?" Her answer to this was yes. When she said yes, he grabbed her by the throat, pushed her neck down on the floor, and began to choke her. He told her that she was being a whore. And I'm going to pause on that part real quick because I did leave one part out. Before they moved to Houston, whenever they would, one of the things that he did that she didn't like was if they were walking out in public, say like walking in a shopping mall or something like that together, every time Bill saw a woman, if she had a spaghetti strap top on, as she passed by, he would just kind of up under his breath, but loud enough that Karen could see, he would say slut. If a woman walked by with a skirt on, whore, anything like that, and Karen would tell him, "Don't do that." She didn't like it. Don't do it, and he wouldn't do it for a couple of weeks, a month, something like that. But then he would start doing that again. So now back to this. So he had her down on the floor, neck down to the floor, and was choking her. And even at this point in time in the interview, she even said then that he was always so sweet until his hands were around her neck and calling her a liar and a whore. Finally, he quit choking her. He let her get back up. He didn't apologize for anything that just happened. There was no kind of remorse in anything that happened. He told her that right then and there, she's gonna call the woman from the wife of the married man that she slept with, and tell her what happened. So she had to find her number, find a way. She called her. She had to call her right then and tell her that she had slept with her husband. Bill wasn't going to let off until so. She found her, called her, told her everything that happened, got off the phone. Soon as she got off the phone, he immediately convinced her that the whole entire interaction that just happened was her fault, and that she did something wrong, and she provoked him for what happened.
That should never provoke anybody to put your hands on them. I mean, you're doing this thing so that you can get to know the person, tell each other your secrets that you've never told anybody else. Yet you're gonna flip a switch when she tells you, "Yes, I screwed up one time." I mean, granted, what she did was wrong. Yes, 100%. But at the same time, it shouldn't provoke a person to put their hands on another person.
Well, and I mean, everything that he does throughout this contradicts what he was raised to.
Makes sense.
So,
So we got that second personality kicking in.
a few days after this incident happened, Bill comes in and tells Karen that they're going to go on a honeymoon. Like I said, Bill didn't have a job. Karen was working, paying for that apartment. She said they already didn't have money, but despite the lack of money, he had already arranged for the whole 10-day trip. Everything was paid for. Everything was ready to go. 10-day trip. They were going to Canyon Lake. They had a little cabin in the woods. So they leave and go on their honeymoon. So can you guess what happened on the first night of the honeymoon?
I can't. I'm baffled at what's happened so far.
So first night of the honeymoon, he wanted to play a little game again. This is from Karen. This is from her interview and the things she said. She said that she already knew when he wanted to play these games. She already knew what was going to happen, but she said she wasn't going to lie. That she was going to answer honestly. Whatever he said, whatever he asked, she was going to answer honestly. Because if she didn't, she said she's already setting herself up for failure. That if this was going to work, if they were going to make this marriage work and everything was going to work, it had to be in honesty.
Mm-hmm.
That's something to be said compared with what he does constantly. But so his question to her, playing the game, this is the third test, right? So his question was about her sexual history now.
Oh, God. Now, we already know what his sexual history is.
Well, kind of.
Well, I'm talking about up to this point, what he has quote unquote said.
Yeah, kind of.
Yeah.
On this one, he asked about her sexual history. If she had slept with somebody in high school, who she'd slept with, so on and so forth. So whenever Karen did answer the questions that he asked, he didn't like the answers whatsoever. So he grabbed her by the throat again, pinned her against the wall with his hands around her throat. She said she finally got loose out of his grasp, and when she did, she ran into the living room and she hid behind the sofa. She said she just kind of curled up behind the sofa. He came walking out of the bedroom saying, "Where is she?" As he walked through. He walked straight through the living room. He walked out onto the porch and he smoked a cigarette. When he was done smoking the cigarette, he walked back into the living room like nothing ever happened whatsoever. He was right back to being the sweet man she talks about. That's all she really said about the honeymoon part of when they went there. She also talked about that when she got off work, that she couldn't even be 5 minutes late getting back home. If she was, as soon as she came into the door, the very first thing Bill's doing is he's yelling at her about who have you been out screwing. Even if they went out into town, if they went to a store or anything, he was always buying her clothes, buying her revealing outfits, buying her stuff like that he wanted to see her in. But as soon as they went out somewhere and they was walking around, if another man turned and looked at her because of what she had on, then it was, why are you being a whore? Why are you being...
That doesn't... Okay.
She said that he became violent at a certain point in time, that he would open hand slap her, he would push her around, he would grab her arms hard enough sometimes to actually leave bruises on her arms. But, for the most part, it was stuff like open hand slaps and things like that don't really leave lasting marks, I guess you would say. Stuff that's more hideable.
Yeah, he's just trying to keep his pimp hand strong.
That's right. That's backhand. That's not an open hand. That's the backhand.
Right. That's backhand. Forehand, backhand.
At this point, right, she comes home one day, and Bill has now said, "Let's move. We're gonna move." Sold everything that they currently have. They're gonna move. Just travel. They're gonna get in an RV, some kind of travel vehicle. They're gonna travel up and down the East Coast, and they're gonna find them a place to go. They went from. They went. No money. They went to New York. Well, they sold the stuff they had, but yeah, I mean, well, you say with no money. He has one of these Mary Poppins bags, apparently, that just money that he just reaches in and pulls out whatever he needs. I don't know where he got it.
A tree that grew in his backyard, drops dollar bills.
Correct. Speaking of, yeah, That's the exact tree he had. Because you're gonna find out about that. Because he did a lot. He spent a lot of time at strip clubs too.
Hmm.
Lots of dollar bills. Um, so they traveled up and down the East Coast. They went to. They spent some time in New York. They spent some time, I think it was in Pennsylvania. They went to different places up and down the East Coast to try to find where they wanted to go next. They did wind up moving to Antioch, Tennessee. It's about 15 miles outside of Nashville. Karen was super excited about moving to this place. There was I didn't write down the name of it, but there was a river that was there because remember she's an avid kayaker. She taught kayaking. She did so. There was a river that was there that she actually went to at some point. She wanted to go there or had been to at some point in time, and she also always said that she wanted to live in the mountains, live in a cabin in the mountains. They have an apartment there, but they're in the mountains, not a cabin. After a little bit of time being in Antioch, Tennessee, Bill told Karen that his mother was selling her home and she was going to go get an apartment, and that he needed to go back out to Houston to help her fix the house up, that it was being sold, to help fix the house up, help her move into the apartment and get the apartment ready. He told Karen that he was going to be gone for about 3 weeks. Well, 3 weeks turned into 3 months. At this point in time, she had to take, she said, not another job, but 3 and 4 more jobs just to pay for the apartment that they had rented and the things that, the little bit of things that they had there. She had to take multiple jobs just to stay ahead of what they were doing. Well, not only that, as you know, he was probably taking money out of the account as well.
Yep.
Bill had called Karen several times. He would check in with her, even though he was still out in Houston. He's been gone for 3 months. He called at the same time every day. He knew what time she's supposed to be home from work. He's calling. She better be answering the phone.
He's a control freak.
Yeah, it was all the time. It was if she was 5 minutes late, it was the same thing. Who are you out screwing? Why aren't you at home?
Wow.
Um,
Yet he won't tell her what he's doing and why he's gone for so long.
well, not only that, is she said that when Bill would actually call her, that he was real quick with her on the phone. Like if it was just a normal call, real quick with her on the phone, didn't have very much to say, and very impersonable. And off the phone and off he goes. Karen would also, I told you, every one of them, they would all love Bill's mother as well. Mm-hmm. Karen had a relationship with her, even though Bill could do nothing wrong in her eyes at all. Karen would call Bill, and this kind of shows you this part right here also, is Karen would call Bill's mother because if she hadn't heard from Bill or whatever's going on, she was trying to find out what's going on. She's still married to him, and she still wanted to make this work. And wow. Yeah, I know. Bill's mother would tell Karen, "Oh, you need to quit worrying about Bill. He's just fine. He's okay." I mean, she would just kind of take up for Bill like that, and then just let it ride, just as it was. After about 8 months is when Bill finally came back. So when Bill came back, he came back for 2 weeks. At the end of 2 weeks, he was gone again. But this time he left a 7-page letter in the apartment for Karen. This letter included everything that Karen does wrong and everything that is wrong with what Karen does is included in this letter, and also that he wants a divorce. So we're saying good riddance at this point, right? No. She told the woman that lived across the hall in the apartment that she was in that Bill had left again, that he wanted a divorce. That's when the woman that lived across the hall from the apartment that they had told Karen about when Bill left 8 months ago, that Bill came over there, talked to her and her husband about he had to go help his mother, how Karen couldn't be trusted in the things that she does, and he asked them to keep tabs on her to let him know what's going on. She brings out some notebooks of tabs of every time Karen left the apartment, came in, who she was with, whoever she kept company with. The people across the hall kept all these tabs for Bill and gave them to him. He would call them and they would give him updates on what's going on. He knew exactly what time she got home from work every day because it's all on a notebook. It's being kept up with the neighbors across the hall. Karen did ask them, why would you even do that? You want to guess what the neighbor said?
Probably something to the effect of, Bill seems like a really nice guy.
She didn't say anything. She just shrugged.
Really?
How? I mean, like, I would have loved for her to give some kind of more explanation into that. Because, I mean, the stories that he tells people and the things that he comes up with, I would love to know how he got somebody to spend 8 months keeping up with the person across the hall.
It's like borderline stalkers. I wonder if he said he was going to pay the people and never did.
Well, what never did. If you had somebody that said they was going to pay you to keep up with some notes on somebody that lived across the hall from you, how long are you going to be keeping up with them and keeping notes on that without getting paid before you go, you know
That's
what?
true.
I'm going to keep one more month. I think he's good for it. One more month.
Yeah.
So Bill left again. 2 weeks after this time, Bill came back and told Karen he wanted to make it work. Still.
What?
2 weeks he's gone.
After saying that he wants a divorce, after keeping tabs on her for 8 months, and he wants to continue on.
Yes, he wants to make it work. What did Karen do? She agreed.
God.
She wanted to make it work as well.
Red flag number 2,187.
Oh my goodness, I'm glad you kept count.
Good gracious, dude.
A few days later, she came home and found the apartment empty. He sold everything they had. He sold every pot and pan in the house for $7. He sold everything. All of her, you remember she's an avid outdoors.
Yeah.
So she's got all of her climbing gear, all of her outdoor stuff. He sold she had thousands of dollars worth of outdoor stuff. He sold all that. And most of all the stuff that he sold wasn't theirs. It was Karen's. It was her stuff. He sold everything pretty much except for what she had in her car with her at work. Like a tent, something, just a few little things that she kept in her car was the only things he didn't sell because it wasn't there. The stuff that didn't sell while he was trying to sell it, he just gave all that stuff away. So it's all gone. Got rid of everything. She was livid again. She comes home to all this and she's livid. He explained to her after this that he had this grand plan. Now that they've gotten rid of all the stuff, they're going to live in a van while they save up just a little bit of money, and they're moving to Colorado. He managed to talk this up to her enough that she was excited. She said that she was excited about this move to Colorado now.
Wow. He pulled the wool over her eyes.
Didn't he? So December the 1st, 1985, they're still living in the van. They haven't moved to Colorado yet. Bill told her he had a change of plans now. They're not going to Colorado. This is not working out. Karen had till June the 1st to get out of the van, and they're going to get divorced. A few days after Christmas, their divorce was finalized, and they were divorced just a few days after Christmas in 1985.
Wow. So he took everything from her, ripped her to pieces, and went on his way.
Correct. So when he came back and he sold everything, that was just to get rid of everything. So just another control thing with her.
Yep.
And you're going to see where this comes in as we keep talking about Karen, because Karen's not done yet.
Karen number one.
Karen number one. Yeah, she's not done yet. So the last time that she saw him at this point, she was staying somewhere else, and she had an easier time staying somewhere now because she said when he was gone for that 8 months that she kind of got used to being by herself, and that made this transition now easier, that she could take her life back. She could be independent of herself again and take her life back. She did make the comment that if he wouldn't have did that 8-month leave and all of this would have happened, that she would have had a lot harder time with what happened, and that she would have also been more apt to probably take him back again. So she was in an apartment. She was at a friend's house that lived across the hall. Bill shows up at that friend's apartment, comes in, tells the friend that she needed to leave her own apartment because he needed to talk to his ex-wife.
I had have told him you can get out of my apartment.
Well, Karen stepped in and said, no, we will go to my apartment and talk. They went over to her apartment. As soon as they get to the apartment, he sees that Karen has a waterbed.
Mm-hmm.
Well, he's just freaking furious at this. Of why does she have a waterbed? She said, because I needed a bed to sleep in. And he pretty much told her she's a whore because she has a waterbed. Then he told Karen that she needed to get rid of her apartment and she needed to leave the town. She didn't need to be in that town anymore.
What? He has all say in what she does.
Correct. He thinks he does. That's the part where Karen said that if it wouldn't have been for that 8 months, that it would have probably been harder on her for all this, but she had learned, she had gotten some self-strength now, and she told him she's not going anywhere, that if somebody needed to leave the town, he can leave if he thinks somebody needs to leave, that she's not leaving the town. She has friends, she has a job, she has a life again, and this is where she's staying.
Nice. So she got a backbone.
A little bit. After she got through saying that, Bill stormed out, and she said, quote, this is what he said. As he stormed out the door, he said, I'm going to fuck over every woman in my path because you are all nothing but whores.
Wow.
That quote comes back up a couple of times, actually. Well, I say that quote, but pretty close to that.
For the viewers, Brent does not curse either. Often.
So, second wife, she's also named Karen. And
I got a picture of that one, right?
No, you don't have a picture of any of. No, I'm sorry. Yes, you do have a picture of second Karen.
Do you want me to go ahead and put
that
up?
Go ahead. You can throw that up there. Yeah, you do have a picture of second Karen with her mother.
Yep, and that's Bill in that picture as well.
And that's actually going to be a little bit younger Bill than the other pictures, I believe.
Yeah, it's a younger one. Let's see if we can blow it up just a wee bit. But that's him with his second wife on the right and her mother on the left.
Thank you.
Yep.
So second wife's name is also Karen. I don't even know the name of the third wife. The only thing that I've heard about the third wife in this stuff right now so far has been that he told his fourth wife, he told her at some point in time that his third wife tried to kill him and he had her institutionalized. Fourth wife, this is the... it won't take very long to go through this, and at the end of the fourth wife, we're gonna call it on part 1. We're gonna make this a 2-part episode because we've already been in a little while. Fourth wife was a 19-year-old stripper that he met. That was his fourth wife. I'll get to her name in just a minute. I said earlier that was the last time, so that's when Karen said it was the last time that she had seen Bill at that point in time. After Karen's parents died, Bill knew that she was going to be receiving a pretty large inheritance. So soon as he found out about that, he started calling her again. And, she's the love of his life. He wants to work it out. The whole story. At this point in time,
The same thing over and over again.
over and over and over.
Yeah.
Now, at this point in time, remember this about Karen. She had this relationship with Bill. After she had this relationship, Karen met another man named Fred. Her and Fred were friends, and Fred took it. Fred knew about Bill, knew about what went on with Bill, and Fred took it nice and slow and proved himself to Karen that he cared about her, and it became a relationship. They wound up getting married, and they had I think they had a daughter together. They had a kid together.
Okay.
She is married and has a child with Fred. Bill calls her, knows that she's got a inheritance coming in. Luckily, even Karen said, luckily for her, the inheritance was put into a trust and it was paid to her in small sums every month. She said because if it wouldn't have been with the things that he would call and say, that she might have caved and gave him money. Because even at this point in time, she is remarried at this point in time, has a child with Fred, and she still falls for this stuff that Bill.
It's like she's smitten.
Yes.
She's just smitten.
Yes, it don't matter. I mean, he's whatever he does.
Even after everything he's done.
Yes.
That's just ridiculous.
So one of the stories that he calls and tells her was that the mafia was after him, and if he didn't pay the money back to the mafia that he owed them, that there was a hitman that was going to kill him. She did say that she fought very hard with this, that if she didn't help him pay for this, he was going to get killed, and that was going to be on her. And she fought hard with herself about it, and she did not pay him.
That was intelligent, because he's a con artist.
And when she didn't pay him, he still lived. And that's when she began to kind of, see from there.
Hey, this guy's not what he is.
Right. The next time she said even after all this, she said she changed her number multiple times, had an unlisted phone number. He would still find out what her number is. He would still call her. All the time. I say all the time, I don't mean like constantly every day, but he was always in touch. And every single time he called, he always made points to say something about the things that she's doing, the kind of car she's driving, whatever. That she knew. Yeah, he always kept tabs on her. Always, he always knew what was going on with her.
It's weird.
So Bill's mother died in October of 1995. That's when he called Karen again, and he was upset about his mother dying. He said that he had always loved Karen. He would always love Karen. And
this is while he's married to the fourth wife or third wife.
I don't know which one he's married to at this point.
But he's already remarried.
Yes. Okay. And she's married and got a child.
Right.
He calls her up. I love you. Always loved you. Still want to be with you. You should leave Fred. We need to be together. We'll go live wherever. Me and you. She even said that even when he called and said all that, that she still was like, no, I'm married. Maybe one day when we're old, maybe we can see each other again then and sit down and talk about back in the days when we had good times together.
Yeah, like when he had her pinned to the floor, choking her, or against the wall, choking her, calling her a whore or slut or whatever. Yeah, that's the good times.
Well, I mean,
or when he sold all of her stuff.
Well, I mean, not only that, is she was telling him that she's still not done with him. I mean, what all do you got to do before you walk away?
Right.
And yes, when all this happened, this is when he had his fourth wife. The last time that he actually contacted Karen, he called her asking for money this time for to get a divorce from his fourth wife, Jennifer. That's the 19-year-old stripper. And he said that when he got a divorce from her, that he would be free so that they could get back together and live their life together.
There we go.
She did not give him money for the divorce, but I told you, Karen still had a relationship with his mother, which his mother's dead now, but at this point in the story, but she also still talked to his sister.
Mm-hmm.
The sister told Karen at the point in time of when he called her wanting money for the divorce, he was already divorced from her.
Oh,
Would
really?
you think that?
Wow.
So
Figures.
it was Bill's last con with her, and that was the one that I guess the straw that broke the camel's back to say, because she had enough of him at that point in time, and that's when she told Fred. She just told Fred that Bill died, so they wouldn't be hearing anything else from Bill apparently. I don't know how she planned on that working because he still called, all the time, tried to get in touch with her, but she told Fred that, and that's what it was. July the 10th, 1988, Karen was sitting on the porch. This was on Karen's birthday. Fred comes out with a phone in his hand and said one of Bill's sisters is on the phone and wants to talk to her, and he has this look. And she said when she saw Fred and he said that, the first thing that went through her mind by the look that was on Fred's face was, oh my God, Bill is actually dead. She got on the phone with Karen, or Karen got on the phone with Bill's sister, and that's when Bill's sister told her, I don't really know how to tell you this, but Bill has just killed 3 women, and he's arrested. That was the last time that, obviously, that Karen spoke with Bill. Now, we're going to talk about his fourth wife, Jennifer, for just a minute. He met her at a strip club. She's 19 years old. Bill would go to these strip clubs at this point in time and drop thousands of dollars sometimes in one night. He would
Where did
go
he
in
get the
there.
money? Where did he get the money?
Mary Poppins bag. He opens that thing up, whatever he needs, pulls it out, apparently. Because he would go into these strip clubs. He went into these things so much when he walked, I guess I say these strip clubs. I think it was more probably like one strip club or a couple of them that probably knew him real well of where he commonly went. Everybody knew him by name in there. It's Wild Bill Cody.
Wow.
So Jennifer, she said that there was a lot of other dancers in this club that were absolutely gorgeous, and she didn't know why. She knew that she didn't have a chance. She was a 19-year-old stripper in this place with these gorgeous women, and she said she knew she didn't have a chance with Bill. But one night, Bill comes over there, and he laid down $1,000 on the stage right in front of her, and told her he wanted her to go out to dinner with him. She said she had a policy that she didn't date clients, and she said she never had anybody put $1,000 down and ask. She said she's had people, say they would give her $500 to go back to a room with them, but he didn't want anything like that. He just wanted to take her to dinner. She did finally agree. She said that Bill took her to a Chinese restaurant, that she didn't really care for the food, but she was smitten with him, and he's such a smooth talker, so nice, so polite, everything that all of them say. He fits that mold again, and she just wanted to be with him. She said when she was with him, she felt he made her feel not like a stripper, like like she wanted to be. She wanted to be married, she wanted a husband, she wanted a family, and that's the way he made her feel. He winds up marrying Jennifer. She was on birth control and he was using contraceptives, and she still got pregnant. While she was pregnant, even before she got pregnant, the whole entire, like if you came home 1 minute late for work, stuff like that, that's when he's flipping out. Who are you out screwing? She was not allowed to go to the grocery store to get groceries unless Bill's sister went with her. She wasn't allowed to. Same thing as with Karen. He would buy her clothes. He wanted her to be dressed like a certain way for her. But if another man looked at her when she was out, oh
Got
no,
called names.
you're a whore, you're a slut. It's all the same thing. She said all the same things that Karen said. It was rose petals on the bed. It was bubble baths, all that stuff. But if you did anything out of line from what Bill is expecting, you're a whore, you're a slut. I know you're cheating on me. So when
I
she
wonder if
was
this kind of comes back to whenever his sisters used to pick on him a lot when he was a kid.
very well could have. I mean, that's
That's like where his hatred for women came. So he wanted to be dominant over whoever and however many he could be.
very, very well could have.
I
Very,
mean,
very well.
that kind of fits a little bit on the spectrum there.
Yeah, I agree with you. It really does. He, when she was 2 months pregnant, she came home late from work. There was I can't remember exactly what it said. There was an accident on the interstate or whatever. She came home just a little bit late from work. And when she did, he flipped out on her and kicked her out, told her she needed to go live with her mother. He lets her come back again. After she comes back again, she finally winds up having the child. One day, she's at home with the baby. She accidentally knocked the phone off the hook. Now this is before cell phones. We're talking about a landline, just a landline telephone.
Yep.
She knocks the phone off the hook, so there's no dial tone. He tries to call her, the phone's busy.
Oh God.
So what does she get woke up to? Bill literally kicks the door in, and she gets woke up to him standing over her, laying in bed asleep, with him kicking the door in and yelling as he comes in there and he's standing over her because he knew he'd done caught her, sleeping with somebody. But she was just in the bed with the baby and knocked the phone off the hook.
Dude's got issues.
Yes. She loved that he had everybody that ever talks about him. He always has money, throwing money around. Nobody can pay for it. He pays for everything. He tips 150% pretty much everywhere he goes. That was his thing. That's what he did. One of the other things that she liked about him was same thing Karen said, was all the things he did. So he had the security company that he told Karen about with the Neal technology. Well, with Jennifer, he told her that he was a partner in a company. It was some other security company. I don't remember the name of it. Well, whenever Jennifer would have her test to see if she would pass or not, anytime that she did something he didn't like, he took her to the offices. So apparently he did have something going on with a security company at this point in time. He would take her to the office down there, set a chair in the middle of the room, and berate her there. She didn't really go into detail about what all he would do there. I don't know if he, would choke her or anything like that there, but the part of the office down there, she considered that as being her punishment place, as where he would always take her to there.
Wow.
Now, you asked about where's the money come from. When with her at this one point, he did wind up. He said that he had to leave the company because he embezzled $70,000 out of the company, and that's where, to keep from getting prosecuted, he gave his share of the company to whoever he was a partner with. He also took her.
So fraud.
Yep, embezzlement.
Yep, embezzlement. It's worse than fraud.
So she was 19 years old. He did the whole sexual, the sexual history game, right? Well, not only did he do that, he found where Jennifer had a notebook of the guys that she had slept with when she was in high school, and he came undone. After that happened, he also took her one time to a, I don't even know, can't even remember the way he called it, but it was a swingers hotel party. She had already told him. He kept asking her the same questions. Would you want two men at one time? So the whole thing with that, and she kept telling him no, 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 I don't. So they go to this. He takes her to this swingers party. She's not interested. She's not interested in being, down there. They were out there doing something. Some people just start having sex in front of them. She's not into it. She gets mad at him. He's like, okay, fine. Let's just go to the room. She said, okay. So they went to the room. When they got up there, he wanted her to put on some little lingerie he had for him. And this was like some kind of swingers hotel. So it had windows. I don't know exactly what it was, but he said the rules of this kind of place is if the curtain's open, that means we want you to watch. If the door's open, we want you to join. She said she was blindfolded in the room, and the next thing she knew, some man that wasn't her husband was inside of her. And she came undone at the seams. The guy that was there, he was like, I'm sorry. The doors open. I thought that y'all was the doors open. I thought that this was what it was. It was a whole thing like that. Well, Bill, at that point, berates her about it's her fault. It's her fault because why, I don't know, but it's her fault. That's a quick summary of pretty much. I mean, I could have went through the whole entire list of the things that happened with Jennifer, but I mean, we're just repeating with this marriage with Karen as well.
Same thing, yeah.
Yeah. I am going to call it right here, and
That's a good one.
We'll come back to this in part 2, and when we come back in part 2, we're going to get to the murders. The way that he actually gets them where he gets them to go to do the things that he does. It's pretty interesting to me. This whole entire one's been very interesting to me, how it all goes together when you find out everything. Right. So, all right. So we'll come back to this. This is the end of part 1. We'll pick up part 2 soon.
In 2 weeks.
Something.
Or do you want to try to do it before 2 weeks?
We might. We'll discuss it. We might try to put out something earlier to finish this one up. We might. I don't know. We'll fill it out. But that is part 1. We will get part 2 out there.
So y'all stay tuned because it's gonna be it's gonna get real interesting very soon. And thank you for listening to Strange Embers.
We appreciate everybody being here, and we'll see you on the next one.
Good night.